Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We can give another couple minutes for folks to join. All right, we're at five past the hour. Looks like we have a light group today. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, so we've got we've got a light group today. Probably not going to be able to get to some of the things that we had talked about, like that focused session working on that what we're calling that ingestion engine on GitHub. So we could take this time to just discuss any general project updates, any updates from any of the individual folks here today, or any other topics that you'd like to discuss. Jeff, does that sound good? We could probably even have a light meeting today too, for that
Yeah,
reason.
that sounds good to me.
Okay. Cool. So I know we've had some updates from criticality score. I have seen, I'm sure a lot of you get the emails as well for all the work that they're doing, fine tuning that. So I'm sure next time we have Caleb in the room, we can meet with him. I'm sorry, folks, give me 1 second. Yeah, sorry about that, folks. It does look like we have Randall here. Hey, Randall.
Sorry for my tardiness.
No worries at all. Do do you think we have time to maybe work on some of that GitHub stuff and the ingestion engine today?
Yes, actually, and I do have updates because Caleb messaged me to be honest with you last week that saying that he did get the criticality score packaged and it is in a Docker container. So unfortunately, I have been so backed up with doing proposals and budgets and all sorts of stuff because it's that time of year that I
Oh, yeah.
haven't been able to test it, but it is in the criticality score repo already, the Docker file.
Very cool. And is it too early for like a very bare bones kind of demo or
I haven't even tried it yet, so kind of.
okay, yeah, no worries.
But I'm planning on finalizing my proposals this week, so I will have more time next week and I'll be able to do it. However, I will say this: yesterday at the meeting that was yesterday, the vulnerability disclosures working group, we had a meeting with Arun from Intel, who actually, because we actually had a long discussion about what we're doing and what he's proposing, because he's also proposing something of a list. And I told him that it would be great if he came here to talk about it, but he is also interested in putting together a list, kind of having what he proposed was kind of having multiple people like Intel, for example, kind of put together a list of their most critical packages, and having other organizations do the same thing, and then making a list based on the amount of times that certain packages show up on anybody's list. So he wanted to get feedback on that, and I told him that this would be a better group to be at. So we might be seeing him soon, but apparently there is some interest in that type of model as well. And I did explain what we're doing here and how we're not really a list, we're a set and all that different type of stuff. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd say it would be certainly interesting to collaborate. I could see something like, yeah, where if we have let's say a couple of organizations or really anybody who wants to, if they have, let's say, their list of um, projects, if there's a way we can, like you said, both capture that, but also cross-reference that to see like, hey, this project has come up on every single person's list, or hey, this project is only on your list and nobody else's list. I think that would definitely help us provide some insights.
Yeah.
But I would be interested in, because generally it seems like organizations are not too keen on really giving that information out. So I'm sure there's going to have to be a way to do it in a kind of like a privacy um, focused way as well. Aaron, you have some thoughts on that?
Yes. I was wondering, I'm just spelunking here through looking at the tooling and looking at some of the getting caught up from the last meeting and some of the repos and stuff that's happening in the repos here. In terms of data sources and the lists, are we using anything that GitHub has created or is working on so far? Because I was speaking to some colleagues over at GitHub who are working on something similarly internally. I don't know the shape of it or that kind of thing, but in terms of helping to identify projects or providing a feed and assessing, what's most dependent on, what's critical by various different metrics, would that sort of thing be helpful in this context? And I don't know if we're tapping into anything that may already exist over on the GitHub side, or if we're talking to GitHub folks at the moment.
If I may, Caleb has tapped into some of this stuff in criticality score.
Good.
However, there is a concern, and it's been voiced several times by different people about what happens if you're not on GitHub.
Of course. No. And this is not to the exclusion of anything else. This is more just an additional sort of
And
yeah,
that's
totally
something
that.
that Caleb and I are actually working on, just for the record, because we're thinking about using more of maybe like distribution points, like NPM might be a better place to get things from. Granted that would require us talking to the NPM people, because I know that there's like a rate limiting issue with that. But
and if that's helpful as well, I can put folks in touch with the NPM side if you're not already
that
there.
would be helpful, I think, because I know that Caleb has already run into that one a few times and it is frustrating. But yeah, but I would say that that's that has been like, we are leveraging that, I think, to some degree. I don't know to what extent, but I do know that we are leveraging some of those things. However, as I said, then the question also becomes, what are you going to do about GitLab and Source Hut?
Of course.
But
it might be also that they've done certain work to try and identify things by their own metrics that maybe that could be externalized, or the process could be externalized and say, well, here's how we'd apply it to GitLab, here's how we'd apply it to X and Y, and it's more just, more
Correct.
additive rather than
Yeah, and I
Correct.
mean,
That's
Aaron,
very
if you know
cool.
anybody at GitHub that could come and talk to us, that would be awesome.
De-
If they have any,
Definitely, I could put.
way that we could consume that data. As far
Yes.
as like, knowing, like I know they have dependency graph,
Mhm.
that kind of, like how many times something is imported is really useful. Uh, I know like the Harvard study kind of gets that for us. So,
Mhm.
that's kind of hard to use. But if we have anything that's like programmatic that we can query, especially like automated, because that could roll right into the automation. Whenever anybody makes a suggestion, we can just pull that data and put it into the spreadsheet or whatever we're looking at. So that would be awesome. But yeah, as far as I know, we're not, the kind of stuff that we're pulling, like stars and things that criticality pulls or busyness, like we know about, but if there's things we don't know about, that would be awesome.
Excellent. I'll reach out to my colleagues and see if we can put you in touch with some folks and see what's available.
Amir, what I do think we could maybe get started on is, I know that there's some concerns and questions around procedures. I know a lot of people are very interested around procedures of like, what can get checked in? What happens if this thing doesn't, for example, have maintainers or that sort of thing? And I know that there's different groups that are kind of wanting different things. I know some of the groups because I'm pretty much involved with everything but like SBOM and Salsa and that type of stuff. But that's for other reasons. But beyond that, like I just think that that might be useful because I know a lot of projects are waiting on our list for them to do whatever they need to do.
Yeah. Yeah, which you bring up a good point, because I also think about all the work that we already did. So like the work we did last year, coming up with a set of projects. And I think, while it wasn't perfect, I think it was definitely a good start. And I almost want to see if we could almost use that set that we generated, almost as like a starting point, or as a, maybe we go through it as a work group, again, and let's say, as a work group, try and, I don't want to say prioritize, but like further validate some of the ones on there, maybe see if there are some that maybe we missed the mark and they don't belong there, and using that spreadsheet as a starting point, because I do think some good work went into it. And I even thought of, even like this morning, I was thinking about like, what if as part of, building this, like a first set of projects in this set, if we just basically did like an exercise, either within this work group or within the OpenSSF, or really the wider community, where if we had everybody come up with a set of 10 projects that they think are just like absolutely critical, and we just cross-reference those, I'm sure we would get a lot of things that have come, that come up multiple times. And and we can justify those as, as chosen by the community who, who works in open source. They recommend this set of projects. So I wonder if, like, I know we definitely have kind of like this kind of end product in mind, but I wonder if there's like something we could even generate, like, now in this meeting or before the end of the year, where we at least have like maybe a starting point, or something that people can refer to and give us feedback on.
Would it be helpful if I made a list and put it in GitHub of all of the working groups that intend to use our list and what their intended use of the list would be? Because let me say something like, let me just kind of, for example, I'm going to pick on the CERT because that's the one of the budgets that I'm working on. So in the CERT plan, there, a lot of the CERT is revolving around assisting projects that need assistance. In other words, that don't have a CERT team or don't have a security team of some sort. We've been talking to people kind of a little preemptively about kind of what they also think the cert would be good at helping out with. And what people have indicated is that there's certain communities that are difficult to interface with, so therefore they do not interface with them. So maybe bringing people together so that people don't fix things in isolation and sometimes aggravate the problem even further is another thing the CERT can help with. Like, but then there's a question of, okay, well, in order to do all this, we do need to communicate with projects because we need to have like an arrangement with them that the CERT will facilitate things for them. And then it becomes a question of which project should we approach? And that's where this list would be used, for example.
I see. So, I mean, how do we feel about,
And just for the record, this is just one example because I could think of 2 or 3 other things like Jox's MF help desk that also has a similar ideology because when it comes to, okay, which project should we approach with our services to help, this list does come up quite a bit.
so I wonder, I mean, could we just,
Yeah, I think it's important to like, for us to agree on what criticality is and kind of create the list based on that in a vacuum. Like if somebody wants to, help projects that are that are critical, but also underfunded, that's kind of like a join or, a filter on our list, right?
Right.
So like we'll put the Linux kernel on there, but it's a project that has a lot of developers working on it. So I don't know, but maybe there's some things I'm not thinking of why we would need to keep in our minds the intended use while we're
Jeff, let me
making these decisions.
throw
Yeah.
one out there. What do you think
Mhm.
about GPG? Because that's a kind of a weird one, because that's one where you really only have one guy that's like the main guy, but that's also because that's the way he likes it. It's not because of the fact
Right.
that it's not that he hasn't had offers from companies and even Microsoft offering to help and step in
I
with
think
GPG.
the decision on whether it's critical or not doesn't matter if it's on that. Like we're separating
Okay.
criticality from
Yeah,
the
security.
other,
Yeah,
the other things that are important, like what do you think the frequency or likelihood of or a risk is, but I
right.
think criticality is like what, how big of a problem would it be if this package was compromised?
That is
Um,
true. That's a good point.
and that's kind of, and I think we can stick to that. And the other stuff is important and useful too. And we can try to, you know,
But
people can,
let me also say this, because this has also come up because so this goes to what we said before, Amir, about how we can't use these metrics as like a defining factor of whether or not something is going to be merged in, because one of my concerns, like GPG, you're going to have a very small amount of contributors, but it is critical. I mean, I don't think anybody would argue it being critical. It's just on paper, it might not look that way.
yeah, even if on paper it might not seem it, I don't see why it can't be on our set of critical projects.
Right.
Like as long as, I mean, I think as long as there's at least one, justification or reasoning, just to show that there is some due diligence happening, we're not just
Fair.
throwing a bunch of projects out.
Mhm.
I think that's going to be very important that we have, at least, if we have this set of projects, having some kind of, like a justification criteria or, so even if it's like, might not have let's say a high on the criticality score, you can just, the argument that, like Jeff said, if it were to be compromised or, if for whatever reason this just weren't a active project anymore, how much disruption would that cause? And And I just want to avoid maybe getting too
Political.
too political, absolutely, and too not selective, but I guess I don't have anything wrong with being methodic. You know, I definitely want to do that. But I think there is a certain threshold that we're reaching where like anything above this threshold, we can call these projects secure because, you know, they're everywhere, you know, even if, let's say, Intel doesn't use it as a critical part of their tech stack, you know, other organizations or the internet as a whole, or like I just think we're looking at, let's say, like 100 projects that we know are critical, but we're like getting caught up in like some of, I guess, maybe some of the details as to like,
So, so what might be helpful for us would be maybe getting a list of what metrics you would like to see from a project when you check it in, because that way we can start working on that. But Aaron, you have your hand up. Sorry.
Sorry, and there may be some prior context around this, but I'm also wondering what the process might be for sort of manual submission or drawing a wider net as to why something might be critical. Like if you ask somebody in a certain industry or in a different company, we talked about Intel here, but if you go to another one, they're like, okay, that one is critical because, and then you find another, you know, from another corner of the internet, you say that this one is critical because. Do we have a process for that, for, you know, submissions from the community? I know this is getting complicated, but submissions, you know, people making a case for it, or even projects themselves making a case for the criticality of something.
I think when you do the PR, you could add it as a comment. That was at least what I was envisioning. But basically what I had envisioned is you're going to just add it to some sort of list. We'll run the metrics tool, and then that metrics tool will just come back and add all the metrics we requested as a comment to your PR. That basically says, this is what, you know, this is what it is. And then I think from there, we were going to go with kind of an approval, like if people in the group approve it or thumbs up it, or I don't know, we have to discuss how we're going to like do it. But yeah, basically that's what we had discussed thus far.
So the process today would be to say, go out into the community, or go out to various people, ask specific groups and say, if you think a project is critical, submit it as a PR here, and add your comment as to why,
Right.
and then it just goes through the same train as every other project. That makes sense.
yeah. And I think the goal is that would kind of basically feed into a table of some kind, something that folks can refer to and consume, which I don't want to be too I don't know what the word is, where you're maybe myopic is the word, but I just go back to, you know, all the work that we did last year, and, you know, and coming up with, you know, over 100 projects, which I look at a lot of them, and, you know, it's one of those like relatively straightforward, like you can make a pretty easy argument that, you know, these would be considered critical, and so I just want to try and, again, not to be too myopic, but I want the process to be, or I want the output to be something like this, where we have, you know, a table that, you know, has projects on it. You know, I don't necessarily want to get too caught up in metrics, because that to me kind of starts to sound like we're just making another criticality score. Where so yeah, it's to me it's all about just having something that we can show and demonstrate and then work on and tinker and improve.
What would you feel like, Amir, if we, so in other words, we'll do the tables and mark, or we'll do the lists in Markdown. But what about if we made a GitHub action that every time the Markdown is updated, we make like a CSV document and upload that to releases? Because I'm doing some of that stuff with PDF currently.
So it would essentially update the,
It would compile the CSV every single time and basically just make a new release of it. So there would always be a release of the criticality score list per se. in CSV format. And we could also do PDF. We could distribute it in a number of different ways, but essentially the redistributable list would be uploaded to GitHub. Yeah, JSON as well. It would be uploaded to GitHub releases. And then therefore, if you wanted to just release or download the compiled version, you can. And that would be in whatever format. We could have it in different formats.
Mhm.
I mean, we're gonna need a way to make a decision on a submission. So
Yes.
if somebody submits a package, we want to either we're going to either say it makes the list or doesn't make the list, and then we don't want that package submitted again, and we also need a way to like evaluate new packages. Like if we do this effort, we come up with 100, and then the next month we want to review everything that came in after that. It would be nice to have a way to see which ones have come in.
I think
So-
that we could probably keep a list, and we might be able to make I know this is probably like a bigger feature, but I mean, we've made bots before. We could probably make a bot that has like hey, we've already analyzed these packages. If any commit comes in with this package, just close it.
Right. Yeah.
And as far as the voting, what we thought about and what we would like to use is GitHub does have a nice approval, not approval sort of review process.
We'll go through the packages in this meeting.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say we did talk about that, and the downside to that, because it could be used as a voting system. The only problem is that we would have to basically add all of the people that we wanted to vote in the repo beforehand, because basically you cannot vote unless you've been added to the repo.
Yeah, I think we don't need to worry about figuring out how to do a vote using software. So we'll be doing like verbal consensus and stuff, because we need to discuss the reasoning that we're choosing it is critical or not, and see what other people say in this group.
I actually like that. I like if we just have it open and we just keep this meeting open, like have a slot, which is just like approvals or whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of what we did in our first iteration too. So essentially there was like a, I guess you could call it like a full list. So it was like of everything that people through recommended or suggested or added or what have you. And then we would basically just go through them as a work group and discuss and approve, and then it would be added to then like essentially the final set. So I think we can probably do something similar to that. And
Would it be helpful if I use the initial list as like a demo set? So because I could set something like that up for next time and have that prepared for a demo.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Yeah, I think if you used any or even all of the stuff that we came up with, I feel like that's at least a good first step, because we did get a good amount of recommendations from community editions, meaning projects that the folks recommended or that they responded to. We created like a very simple Google form, like a survey that fed into, that was kind of like our first stab at this, was like whatever you respond in that Google form feeds into this into this feed that we would then review and whatnot. But I'd say, yeah, I mean, these 100 projects, I mean, are a good starting point, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I will have that ready for next time, and I will let Caleb know, and we'll work together.
Very cool, very cool. And actually, speaking of next time, I was just looking into it. It looks like our next meeting is in fact in 2 weeks on the 1st of December at the one of the slightly altered times. So I have it on at 2 p.m. my time.
Yep.
So I think that's one of the new APAC friendly meeting times, plus that weird time change thing that Jeff was telling us about.
Yep.
Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, that'll be perfect. So we can hopefully have something that we can start iterating on, like a prototype almost that we can start working on. And because yeah,
And
oh,
I'll
sorry.
make it on my personal repo for now, but then later on we could figure out where it'll go inside of our repo, or we want to make a separate repo, or how we want to handle that.
Okay. Wonderful. And it looks like Aaron has um volunteered to help a little bit as well too. So thank you for that, Aaron. And yeah, if
I'll keep you guys posted on Slack as well. So like as soon as I have it up, I'll send like the repo on Slack, so that way you guys can take a look and go from there. Open your issues.
excellent,
great.
excellent. And cool, yeah, because I think it would be nice where even if, let's say, by the end of the year, that would be, I think, 2 more meetings, the one on the 1st and then one on the 15th. Yeah, because I think if by then, even if, even if it is a lot of stuff from our first iteration, if we had almost like a draft finished set to that we can start sending out to people. And that could be even a way to get feedback, more feedback as well. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll get on that. As I said, I'm wrapping this up this week, so next week I should be able to put time into that.
nice, awesome. Thank you, Randall. I appreciate you helping so much with this. I know,
Yeah,
I know a
yeah, I
lot of folks,
completely
like you
agree.
said, are excited about this, and
No, no worries.
it is going to go a long way, ideally, and um, just
Yeah,
having some kind of curated set of open source projects, saying like, I kind of think of it almost as like a spotlight. So we're helping, folks say like, hey, you should focus on these projects or think about these projects more,
Mhm.
So with that in mind, I feel pretty confident we can have something soon to showcase.
I
I
think
do
as we
too.
go through the process as well, having the acceptance process being out in the open and seeing how the sausage is made and so forth will help people identify, other projects. It'll sort of become an organic flywheel in that sense.
Agreed.
Yes, absolutely agreed. I think that was actually one of my action items, which was to get some of this stuff on our repo. Oh, this is the other one. So yeah, but that's a great point. We'll make sure to um have that out in the open too, and also, have it in a way where we can optimize it or tinker it if we have folks with good ideas and whatnot.
It would be great to have a single spot, like a small snippet somewhere in the repo or something that you could send out to folks and say, hey, to this group, do you have any critical projects on your thing? So they sort of get it in at a glance in the midst of their busy, their general busyness, and they can say, yes, I really care about this, and here's what I would do next. So we can just poll folks in various communities, organizations, etc.
Agreed.
Mm, absolutely, yep. And it's looking like the repo is going to be a good a good resource for that. There's some stuff up there already, but yeah, definitely. I think the repo can be used to help with that.
So switching topics a little bit, Amir, I noticed that there was like some unintended changes to the spreadsheet. Did you fix those or?
Um, I'm not sure. I think the changes were somebody. Actually, yeah, I didn't add all of these like additional sheets and stuff. I don't know who did that.
Yeah. So I think what happened is it's open to anybody that joined the working group, which is Google group, which is free for anyone to join. And somebody joined and made some edits. I don't know what's going on there. We can restore it. It looks like back in July. It's like, oh well, there's a Michael Scavetta one in October. We can like restore an old version.
Yeah, because even though the one that I have up, looks like you have it up as well.
Yeah.
The first sheet called critical projects, I think, is largely accurate.
Mhm.
The only thing that's been added to it was someone made like a little table showing all the kind of
Yeah.
tabulated selection criteria.
Yeah. But anyways, I think that's I don't think that's whatever they did was correct or helpful. It's kind of like,
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we can just X that.
but you can, but instead of just trying to like take it all off, we can just go back to a previous version.
Sure. Okay.
Um, I see one. So, actually, let me just share this window. Um,
Yeah, it looks like they just made some graphs more or less. I don't know why they made.
I remember somebody said something about it as to why they made it, but I forget who it was and where it was.
there are like all these. I don't know why there's all these copies
Yeah.
and sheets and stuff, but this one here is probably the one that we want, right? But I don't know what Michael Scavetta did here, if that's, or Christina Munoz, if that's something that we're going to lose. Yeah, this one has all the copies and stuff.
Does it show it in the doc and one of the other tabs if they've made changes that we need to pull across?
I don't know. I'm not a Docs Power
I've
user.
seen something like that. I think I've seen something like that. I think it highlights so
I
that
think I
there's
have
something
too,
helpful. But
As long as that first tab of the projects and then the projects to audit that I added later, as long as those two are in there, we can just go back to an old version. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna click restore this version.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna remove that person from the group, because I don't know how to get their email from that list. I just see their display name, but I'll figure it
Okay.
out.
Okay. But
I
yeah,
think it's
no,
the
this
same
looks
person that like sent some random spam messages. So
okay.
okay, yeah,
Okay, cool. And now that we have that version recovered, I'm just gonna add it here to our notes here.
something interesting I saw in the docs actually is you can create a named version of a specific doc. So as you go through, you can say, well, this is V1 of our such and such, or the last good, the July release, or
Yeah, that's something that we could totally maybe use if we're gonna kind of update this process and keep using Google Form, but I don't know exactly. I like the idea of like a markdown table or like a CSV or I guess whatever makes the most sense. Cool. Okay. Wonderful. Is there anything else that folks want to talk about?
Oh, I have something. I've been updating the repos with a markdown linter. Would you like me to implement that in our markdown in our repo?
Forgive my ignorance. What is a markdown linter?
It basically there's a markdown lint. It basically just points out so that your markdown looks pretty and is most compatible with like readers and stuff of that nature. If not, it'll pop off. So what I have it going on right now is I've implemented it into all the repos. I have also gone into the repos and like corrected their markdown. Most of it's auto formatable. There's just a couple of things that people forget to add tags and stuff like that that throws it off. But other than that, basically the main reason is that way if people commit something to the repo, it'll pop off and it'll tell you, hey, this isn't supposed to be like this because it could break markdown readers and stuff. So
Okay. I don't see why not. Does anyone have any preferences?
Yeah, sounds good.
okay.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So I'll make a PR and yeah. Later on, we can email operations, or I can show you guys how to do it because that way I had one less repo I have to deal with. But because sometimes certain groups have certain things, so we can disable rules. Right now, I have all rules on, but we can turn any rule off. So there's things like one that I commonly turn off is that they want you to like keep everything in 80 characters per line. So that way it's not like super big. So I turn that one off because that one's sometimes a little difficult to like deal with. But yeah, so just so you know.
Oh, I
Cool.
like 80 characters limitation.
You can also disable them on like the document should you want to. So like it's not too
Yeah.
bad to deal with, but
We don't do a lot of markdown editing in our group, but yeah,
no.
it'd be fine to have. Yeah, I think it's good.
Perfect. I will get that in as well. But other than
Cool.
that, I'm good.
Awesome. Thank you. Do we have any other thoughts or comments or topics? Okay. Okay. With that, we can get a couple minutes back in the day. Maybe get a head start on lunch if that's around the time of day for you. Um, Thank you all so much for participating, and I appreciate the discussions and the contributions. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Amir. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
Aaron.
you. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Mr. Important in we can
What? Hmm?
And I torture the fun. Torture the fun.
What you think?
I want to torture the fun.
Mm.
I think it really needs some sort of massage. I'm in so much pain in the shoulders. Yeah. Ah. The shoulders have had a rough night, man. I woke up a few different times, tossing and turning.
Yeah, we don't get the massage right to get it from my mom.
Maybe when I get off work today.
Mami. Oye, ¿todavía tienes ese aplicador aquí para la espalda? Esa que compraste unos sándwiches hace tiempo. Se chupa la pared. Es que tenía como dos cosas redonditas que cuando saco. ¿Cómo se la apretas? Otra cosa que iba a preguntar, todavía puedes empezar el humidifier en la noche. Pues para que todo. Pero vamos a ver, si no para.
Okay, I asked for the humidifier for people. And
Gracias.
all right, lay down. Lay down. You don't want. My mom said be careful though, because if you do more than 5 minutes, you're going to die. Okay. Good. You want some too?
Really?
How is it?
I know, you think, you know. I'm alive.
He said 5 minutes. You did more than 5 minutes. You tell mom, asshole.
This far.
Mm-hmm. I better move before I smell it.
So what do you think?
Feels better.
You want me to correct you?
You try. I'm so mad at you every time you do that. Okay, I promised. She just looks at you, she blames you.
Can you roll this up? Please. What do you think? It worked? We need to get one for us.
I want to get one, but not that version. I think that version is a little on the larger side.
Well, I think you also missed the loop.
So you learn about this in TV production school. You have to over, under, over, under, over. There are cables up there, so that they stay nice. Under. It's also so that they don't get tangled, just so you know. That's why they do this. Okay. And you are new to me this morning. I'm hungry. I'm new.
What do you mean?
But I'm hungry. Why can I heat myself up to eat? And you're like, I don't care.
I could say I would say I remember this, but I don't.
Zoe does. You don't want it? You don't want your chili? Why you keep looking at me? I gave you chili. You know you're supposed to last longer than 3 minutes, right, dum dum? Puree ate half of it. Inside. Really funny.
Yeah, no, I need a good shower if I want to come back for it.
You should not consider it. Because, people put the body feet to their face and stuff, and not consider it to those people. Okay, bam. Hey, look, it's Zoe and broccoli.
They get you breakfast technically. They got you donut. No, doesn't count. I know you want that for breakfast.
I'm ready for my Philly cheesesteak.
Is that what's called now?
Or then Philly cheesesteak, roast beef, cheese. Roast beef, and I have the cheese in the fridge. No,
Thank you.
you know, like roast beef. Whatever was.
I keep calling my vagina roast beef, and one of these days I'm gonna have a problem. You can tell Fuzzy that too. My wife has a problem with me calling her vagina roast beef. Well, let's see what his reaction is.
He's never fucking vagina roast beef.
No, that's just weird.
What's wrong with roast beef? Huh? Hmm? No.
Mhm.
Fine.
There we go. I'll take prime rib.
Somebody's got issues.
Yes, I know. I'll take care of it.
I think it's easier to wash dishes after you eat. Because then food doesn't get stuck on your buster road. Am I wrong? No?
Yeah, you're right.
Stop or snooze?
Stop. I spent 15 minutes.
Yeah. Grace's reply.
No, I'm putting one out.
I'm just gonna look after.
Why'd you put this donkey over here? Oh, I found out why stores or restaurants are having so much issue. Hmm? 4 out of 5 restaurants nationwide have reduced their hours since 2019. They've done so an average of 6.4 hours, 7.5%, according to the recent data essential report. Restaurants that were once open until 10 and 11 are now open until 11 and 9. Washington, D.C., and Vermont and Maine top the top of the list of states where restaurants have or restaurant hours have declined the most. Alaska was the only state that saw an increase in restaurant hours. Two main reasons why. One, there aren't as many customers, and aren't those who are coming in aren't night owls. Second, not enough industry to work in the restaurant industry.
Can you turn in your video so I can hear what you're saying?
So the first one is that there's not enough customers. Like there's like not enough late customers, like people are eating earlier.
Okay.
And the second reason is because there's not enough interest to like work in restaurants. But they're still pulling in money and they're experiencing a worker shortage. But if you look at this graphic, look between 2000 and like it keeps dropping. People keep
Or eating earlier, not going out as late.
yeah. Hmm.
Makes sense. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
You come back at 3:30, right?
Yeah, I don't have anything to do. I probably should get going and be there. Like now, I got what I wanted out, so.
Hey, Mom. You're not forgetting anything, right?
No, I said I got it just now. That little purse and my keys and everything else.
They said that doesn't count.
Well, I can get her a second option when I come back home, but right now she can eat the leftovers and be happy with it. Did you take the crap out of the purse?
Yes.
Okay.
Where is it?
Where's your phone?
Oh,
Right, over here.
bye. Love you too.
Let's take a look. Pick up our basic folders. And when it grows, we nest those folders. Modular Rocks takes this folder structure and creates a smart data structure, injecting scoped environments into your nested components, giving you a really smart code base converted into a smart data structure, adding simplification into how you organize your file. And any file and folder extension can be enhanced with extending functions, which are invisible custom functions that wrap themselves around your module and are only invoked on modules with specific extensions. For example, I want to make this component a connected Redux component. Just by adding connect to its file, it will be enhanced by an extending function I'll define in the global configuration. In this particular extension, we call another file with patch state copies, but I won't have to programmatically connect it. And this is my Ajax function. We call in the background that's automatically passing the scope. I can extend this one by the Ajax extension. As you can see, the extension builds a function based on specifically named files within the folder, which builds the request by calling the agent function, and based on the response, pulls either success or failure, which means I don't have to rewrite the request every time. It's very easy for the junior devs to work with. I extend the agent through my get extension, which means the file is reduced to simply JSON, and the extension turns that into an agent that makes a request. And let's turn success into a Redux reducer. So whatever state is returned from that function will update the Redux state.